Late night show. Late night show.
Late night show. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Rich by Monday podcast. I'm your host, the Google grad, Jared Wilkins.
And
On
I'm
the
your
other side,
co-host, D. Creighton. I. Or call me Dorrance or Creighton.
I almost said your name, low
Right?
key. I almost said I'm you. We need to go to sleep. Um, yeah, yeah.
Late night show.
Late. So, first and foremost, I want to say rest in peace to DMX. So,
Yes.
um, before we continue on with things, is there um is there a moment or like a song from him or an album that that sticks to you or stuck out to you?
Mhm. Mhm. Um, the earliest one I can remember was I think it was Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood.
Mm-hmm.
That was like I remember, bumping that. I don't even think I own the album. I think my dad owned the album. And that was one of the albums he had and I bumped that. This is before I bought my own records.
Yeah.
So that would be the one to stick out.
You was buying records.
The CDs.
Buying...
CDs. This is before you could burn a CD. You had to go buy the actual CD
That's crazy.
at the warehouse. Near the warehouse.
Yep.
And you go there and it would be like $2.30 or something crazy. Something like that.
That's crazy.
CDs were like $30 each, something like that.
Man, I was watching on Netflix. They have it's a documentary or something called The Last Blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
did you
I
watch
seen
that?
that. Yeah.
And they were saying VHS tapes was $100.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, what?
When did that happen? Was I born yet? Like, when was that?
What year they say it was? I think this was like, okay, this is everyone's going to the movie to watch a movie, so this had to be before VHS. It had to be like early '80s,
Man, I
right?
don't know, cause
End of the '70s.
I know if I don't know, cause we had hella movies, and I
Yeah,
know my parents didn't pay $100 for no
yeah.
movies.
This was probably after he was at the rental age, like Blockbuster, and remember we used to have like a lot of local um, video rentals too.
Yeah, but that's what they were saying. They were saying
Yeah,
that it was before the video store. It was $100, like per
yeah,
VHS.
yeah. I'm for sure we didn't own any VHS. 100% sure.
Like, yeah, we just gonna go ahead and skip that one.
Yeah, you gotta go to the movies with that. I don't remember
Yeah.
like really going to the movies much as a kid either.
I went a few times. Like I went to see one of the greatest movies of all time, Jurassic Park. Um,
Right.
uh, I remember Jurassic Park when I was a kid, and I remember The Matrix.
That's like or early 2000s then.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And,
I don't
like,
really
was that 99?
something.
I remember the drive-through, like the drive-in. When I drive in,
Yeah.
the drive. I remember going there.
Um, I really don't. Actually, I did. One time I tricked my dad because he didn't know what South Park was,
Mm.
and they came out with
Like,
the South Park movie, and we
is
were
that bigger than
actually in
Blacker or something like that?
yeah, it was something, and we were in Louisiana, and my uncle, my uncle had just got married at the time. He was married to a woman from Bogota, Colombia, and she had a son. I
Mm.
forgot how old he was, but he wasn't much younger than me.
Mm.
So he's like, "What y'all want to do?" And me, I'm like, "South Park movie just came out. Let's go see it." So
Right.
so he like, "All right, cool. It's a cartoon."
It's just regular cartoon. All right.
So yeah, he took me and Danielle, that's his name, to go see South Park
Mm-hmm.
when we were like 10.
Yeah. South Park is is not the movie you see as a 10-year-old.
Well, we found that
um,
out, you know. So we found out that's what the
especially
situation
back
was.
then. Back then, it was even wilder. It's actually a little bit more neutered now. Maybe I grew up. I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm not so surprised about that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it was even at the time I didn't know it was gonna be like that, but it was pretty bad. It was
Right.
it was pretty bad. Like, I mean, I'm surprised. I'm surprised I ain't really get in trouble, to be honest, because it was a lot. I mean, we were like nine. It was just a lot. It was a lot of things that, well, of course, we know about, but hadn't been explained to us. And
Yeah.
so, like, the whole movie is like, just like my dad looking over, like, why you laughing at that joke? Like, you know.
Right. You
But
like, I don't know.
yeah. So I don't know how we got on South Park
Talking about that part.
from DMX,
It's the late
but
night show.
but I agree though. Like DMX, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood. That was probably my favorite album that he had. Like just
Mhm.
that I could just play. Um, I was playing there earlier today, and then the crazy thing is, like a couple weeks ago, I just randomly started like playing it. Like just
Mhm.
I don't know. Something was like, "Yo, you need to play Slipping," and so I was just
Mm.
playing it like on
Mm.
repeat.
Right.
So maybe that was a sign that
Right.
you know. And he was looking good though. He was all chubby. You know what I'm saying? That's how you know when somebody like doing well. They get chubby.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're real healthy. Right.
Yeah. He was doing good, man. So rest in peace, DMX.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
You
it's
talking about
sad
like
to,
a real genuine person that wore his heart and his feelings on his sleeve. You could tell he's a real dude coming. It was
man, you know what?
at
I
all.
I'll never forget the day that he referred to Drake as a dope female MC.
What?
I'll never forget that day. He was like,
uh,
"Who? Oh yeah, she's cool." Like, yeah. That-
talking about Drake at like the top of his game too at that time.
I mean, yeah. Like, what is Drake gonna do? Beat him up? Like, what
Uh,
was?
he's probably referring to just he makes music that could be pointed towards women. So,
Um,
but I like Drake though. Full
I do
disclosure,
too.
I like Drake.
I think, I think he's like the. I think he's in terms of like artistry, he's definitely like the top artist of this generation.
Mm-hmm.
Like 100%. There's no way that everything he puts out. I don't even think people care what the music sounds like. I think it's just his voice. Like I just want to hear Drake talk
Mm-hmm.
over
Yep.
beats because he's not saying anything. Like
No.
sometimes his words don't even rhyme. He's just being Drake.
Yeah. I mean, people
So,
forget the voice is an instrument too. So if you have good vocals, like DMX, something is different. You know, a
hmm
different vocalist going on the track. It's something you want to hear.
yeah.
Yes. I wasn't looking forward to all the content creators that were going to use his death as content.
Yeah.
So you can see people who are really genuine. I know Russell Simmons dropped something about him, but you see like the random, Instagram content follower who wants now to do a dance to the DMX song, and it's just so cringy. Like, oh, like come on.
You know what though? They don't know what else to do.
Yeah, it's like it's just like
You see,
another day of they don't have to think about any other content. They just say, oh, okay, who passed? Like, okay, let's put their new music up and we'll do a dance to that. Since everybody's talking about it, we'll utilize this time to grow our following.
but
And I think
that's what
we
what it is, but what I was saying is like that's all that they know how to do is
Yeah.
dance. Like like for us it's different. We grew up like with so many different. I think we probably witnessed like the most accelerated like, you know, time frame or trajectory in like the way we use technology, the way we
Mhm.
interact with it. Even
Right.
even from the time that we were kids to the time that we turned 21, there were probably 5 or 6 different things that we used every day that
Hmm.
like were completely phased out of our life.
Hmm. Like, give me an example.
Well, for one, so from the time that we were kids, we had tapes, right? So not only did we have tapes, but then
Hmm.
we had the Walkman because you had to take the tape with you, right? So then tapes got phased out
Right.
with when
Hmm.
CDs came in, right? And then CDs come in and that
Yeah.
phases out VHS because that gives us DVD.
Yep. Hmm.
And then that gets phased out like on an upgrade kind of because they give us Blu-ray. But then Blu-ray comes and it's like, I don't even need a disc.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I just have all this stuff on my like,
Every Then no, it was download. You could download it to your computer, but it took a long time.
yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, streaming came up. It's like, okay, now I don't need the disc. I don't need to download it to my computer. I don't need space to house these things. I can just stream it.
You know what's funny is like we've been streaming though. It was illegal,
But
but we've been doing it.
it was hard
Like,
though,
yeah.
because of like the live streaming. That was like, it was way too slow. Like the buffering
Yeah.
issue. It would,
Yeah, we didn't have the
you
bandwidth.
would buffer like for 10 minutes and come back and then watch 3 seconds.
Yo, you know what? I hated that. Cause I used to start a movie, or I would start the movie and then pause it so it could load like
Yep, it was
all the
buffering.
yeah. And then
Right.
come back like 40 minutes later and be like, all right, cool. If I start now, it'll be done buffering by the time I get to the end of the
Yeah.
movie.
Like I just learned that the technology behind buffering, um, basically once you play the video, it'll basically downgrade the quality of it
Hmm.
while you play it, so it'll just keep playing. So we don't get, if you notice, we don't have buffering anymore. So it's still doing it, but it downloads the quality, so we don't actually see it
Hmm.
or notice. I looked this up. I was like, look, I'm not a tech person, but I was like, that's dope. I was like,
Yeah.
it's so good. Like it's so refreshing that people could be working on something that you didn't even know you needed, but someone's already working on it. And it's like cool. It made my life easier. I can look at YouTube videos with no problem, with no buffering issue.
I
I
didn't
didn't
know
even
that.
notice the shift.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Works better now.
Well, now
So
I'm gonna go look and see if I can spot it anytime I
yeah,
watch a video.
I don't think you can. It's so good. The technology is so good.
That's crazy. I don't know. Like that's what I'm saying though. Like we've been through like they're gonna have commercial flights to space within the next 20 years maybe.
Right.
And it wasn't even a thought like when we were kids. They were still teaching us about the moon landing from the 60s,
Right.
you know? Like and we're 20, 30 years past that and they're still like, "Yeah, we did it."
Got my
So,
Thai tea. You see, I had to take my straw out. Like I'm not gonna sip out a straw on camera. I got the real one. I got
what's
the
wrong?
real
What's wrong with sipping out of a straw?
one. You see, that one meme. That dude was like, dudes be all hard in the club, come in the club all hard. Then they got a straw in they drink, and they in the club trying to catch
Uh,
the gun.
That's funny because it do be like that. They be
Dude,
all
be
on the
like,
wall, me mugging.
yeah, you try to catch your straw with your tongue.
That's funny.
Yeah, but technology came a long way.
Well, I mean, even looking at like where we are. So, okay, so I got a question, right? Because I don't know if I'm I try to look at everything like, am I being a grumpy old man, or
Mm-hmm.
is this a real thing? Right. And so anytime something new comes about, the first thing I do is look for it going wrong,
Mm-hmm.
to understand like how it's actually going to be used, because all the news you hear is all good news.
Right.
So I want to know like the other side of it while everybody is celebrating it. Um, so today and yesterday, I was doing some research on NFTs,
Mm-hmm.
right? The non-fungible tokens, which is like all the hype in the world. People are like, oh, if you can own a sword in a video game or whatever, right?
Give us a brief overview of what they are. You can say
Um,
what it is.
well, that's the thing. Like, I
Somebody
don't,
there.
I don't fully like, I can't fully explain it because I'm not from that world. But basically, it's digital, it's digital art, or
Mm,
just a way to capture some type of digital item and own it, because
okay.
all of the rights are written into the code,
Mm-hmm. So like the
right?
metadata,
So yeah,
like
like so
a photo.
it's it's stored. It'll be stored on a blockchain, and which is a decentralized network, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all, like you said, just like metadata, all the smart contracts, or anything that's like, you know necessary to go along with it, will be part of the code. So like it's, like they use Ethereum because Ethereum has smart contracts, right? And so what a smart contract does is it allows for something, in a very simple explanation, it allows for something to happen once a specific event takes place. So to give you an example, if you created a painting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever it may be, whatever this item is, and you wanted to sell it as an NFT, and you wanted to make sure that you receive some type of residual payment every time the NFT was sold, you could write that into the code.
Mm-hmm.
So if a person buys it and then they then go and sell it, you can get your payment or your commission or whatever it might be every time the transaction occurs on that item.
Mm. I do like that for the artist because you figure a traditional artist who paints oil painting or whatever, a physical item, they get to sell that once and get a fee for it, right?
Yeah.
In this case, if they make that a digital item and sell it, and they can get residuals from every time it's sold,
Hmm.
that's a win for the artist.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I'm sure the artist can make multiple digital copies. It's a lot easier than painting the same portrait, or whatever you're painting, landscape multiple times and selling it.
True. True. Um, and that's part of the reason why I think they have so much value, is because everyone is buying into like the idea of this being a limited item.
Mm-hmm.
If there's only 10, then there'll only be 10, and only 10 people will own them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the concept in the way that it's being um, propagated at the moment is that you can own something forever. It could belong to you
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, right?
Right.
But in a way, I feel like it'll only make real tangible assets more valuable,
Mm-hmm.
because
Items in the real world.
yeah, because like if I'm buying something that's digital, that means
Mm-hmm.
that the other buyer, the only value I have is what the other buyer who believes in that type of thing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
valuing that item more than I do and paying me for it.
Right.
Right. So then the idea, just because something is limited doesn't mean it's valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I make something and it's only 10 of them, and people buy 10, but then I just make another thing and there's 10 of those, like how much value do I have in that?
Mhm. Well, it depends on who the buyer is, right? Because you know, I seen a guy who's a collector of Smurf items, right? The old school TV show, like in the '90s, of little gremlins who lived in you know I don't know, fairyland. They were all blue, right? Most people know what the Smurfs are, right? But he was a
That
collector of all different
that's your
items,
description of the Smurfs.
right? Yeah, that's my typical description. I didn't want to call
That
them
is
little
terrible.
because they're actually like, what
No,
are they?
because you're gonna get us
They're
canceled. That's what you're
right,
gonna do. You're gonna get us canceled on our third show. This is the third show. We're not even
right.
finished yet.
I'm not comparing little people to Smurfs at all. Okay, I'm gonna put that out. Full disclosure on that. They're different things. They're a whole different species. Anyways, so this guy collected that for like 20 years. All right, Smurf items. Bears, watches, anything with the items on it or the marking, whatever. So that's not valuable to me at all, right? I don't care,
Mhm.
but he was able to go pawn it out and sell it for X amount of dollars. So I say that to say there's a market for everything. So like with the NFTs, I'm not interested in it at all.
Mhm.
But whoever, like you said, whoever's interested in that, whether it's 10 people, 20 people, or 100 people who are into that niche, there'll always be a buyer. One with someone into it is into
Yeah.
it. But there's no value in it for me at all.
Well, my thing is like, is are we valuing the actual items that are being, tokenized, or are we actually just valuing like the token? So if I could tokenize like a virtual napkin, is it worth $10,000 because it's just because it's an NFT at the moment? Like that's
Well, it depends on how many buyers are available in it. Now, if you're asking, um, do does it that does it make something valuable just because it's hyped? Are you speaking to like the hype of it?
well, yeah, because everybody, you see all these guys, you see I could say Gary V because he's huge and he don't care about us. But
Mm-hmm.
somebody like Gary V, who's like, oh, NFTs are the future. And I understand how it can, especially when it comes to music and music royalties and certain rights. I see
Mm-hmm.
how smart contracts can completely change like how royalties are tracked and paid. Do I think the music industry will adopt that? No, because they will no longer be able to steal from you. But
Mm-hmm.
it,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like that's what they do.
Right. Right.
Um, so could it be used for like titles on your car? Absolutely. Could it be used for voter registration? Absolutely. But that's implementation like on a different scale other than like as a commodity,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, okay, I'm hearing all this and I'm like, so what's the difference between an NFT and a PDF?
Right.
Like, what are we really doing here? Is this
Okay.
like a glorified PDF? What is this?
Let's think about, okay, well, what is it, right? Is it art? Is it some type of service? Um, is it a physical item, like as in like a good, like something you can consume or keep? And I think it's more so art. I think I'm putting this in the art category because you can't eat it, you can't drink it. It's not shelter. It's not clothing. It's not any of these you know things that you actually need. And so I would put it in the art category of something that you would buy if you have money you can just blow.
Yeah,
And
but
that's
like
what
why? Like
like
this Like that is
Like,
it's not that I don't see that. I do see the value, right? So okay, so I
right.
watched another video of a guy who shared his experience with selling NFTs, and
Mm-hmm.
78% of his profit went to fees,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you have
So
you have
that
commission
business,
fees.
that the business you want to be in,
That's what
that
I'm
might
saying.
be it.
Like there's commission. Yeah, you're right. There's yeah, we need to look into that. Let me write that down. NFT broker.
If you want,
Yeah, let me just look into that one.
maybe we're
Uh,
thinking of it wrong. See, we always thinking of it as, well, I wouldn't do that. We really be on like, well, I wouldn't do that, so I'm not into it.
well, is I mean, yeah, okay, you're right.
Instead of
You're right.
people do that, so how can I profit?
Well, I just try to see both sides. Like, cause
Right.
the only way you could win a war is if you understand both sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I try to look at things when everyone is hyped about something, I'm looking for the negative parts
Mm-hmm.
to piece it all together. Like, cause the way that I think, this is why sometimes it'll take me a long time to grasp concepts, but then when I
Mm-hmm.
get it, it's like I've known it my whole life because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very linear thinker, right? So in order for me to understand something, I have to be able to break it down and put it back together,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'll break down the idea, I'll compare it and attach it to something that I already know is like a medium to help me understand it, and then I'll rebuild it, right? So I need to know the whole thing. I need to be able to see it through and work my
Right.
way back. And when I went online and I typed in NFT and nothing bad came up. So that lets me know one is way too new because
Mm-hmm.
nobody's been scammed yet. Right.
Right.
Oh, nobody's talking about them being scammed yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I found one guy who was a lawyer who talked about some things to look out for in terms of like the smart contracts. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can buy something in an NFT form and not realize it has smart contracts in it that require you to pay other people,
Mm-hmm.
right? So just different things like that. And so it's not that I don't think it has value or that I wouldn't do it. I always try to figure out like what game are we playing?
Right.
You know,
What's the
because
for- it's too
yeah,
much.
because people always want to put different terms and different words and in front of things that we already do to make it
Mm-hmm.
sound like it's something else, but it's not. It's like we're already doing this either in a different industry
Mm-hmm.
or in another form in the same industry. It's just like the guys who say they're Airbnb investors,
Right.
or
Right.
I'm an Airbnb investor, I'm a real estate investor, I have an Airbnb bit. No, you don't. You sublease.
Yeah. Subleasing other people's property.
Yeah, like you go to someone who owns a property and sign a lease and then lease it to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So for everybody who's listening, I just saved you $2,000 for an Airbnb course. Because that's all it is.
And you have to get the owner's permission. I mean, typical leases today don't allow subletting. I know because I write them, and we don't allow that on any
Well,
property.
we live in California, so it's different. And to be honest, if you don't live in California or New York and you out here talking about real estate and all that, I'm not listening to you anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you know, you can call it what you want, but New York and LA is the pros. And so it's cool if you got your $200,000 house and you went and rented or leased a fancy car to sell a course or whatever you're doing, but that don't fly in California. Like, it don't work like that out here, man. Like you gotta really be balling out here to do something like that. And it's I can go to Mississippi today and buy 100 units for 10,000. Like, so what?
Rather play the ether beat on the end in
There's
the
a real
background.
estate ether.
All I heard was doom doom.
I'm just man, and it's not just me who feels this way. I'm just the one who's saying it, right? Like I talk to a lot of people in real estate, and they all feel the same way. Like you go on Clubhouse or whatever, and it's all these guys talking about real estate, and it's like, yo, y'all don't live like y'all not doing real estate. Y'all
Mm-hmm.
playing. You playing around, man. Now, I mean, there's other areas that are better markets. Like I'm not just, you know, saying these are the only two places real estate takes place. But but you know, you got to take it into consideration. Like
Mm-hmm.
the average house out here is in my neighborhood within a 2 mile radius, the average house is like 1.2 million. So that
Yeah.
means in order for you to live, in order for you to live comfortably, like not barely making it, but comfortably, you need to be making $250,000.
Yeah.
Right? You got money to pay all your bills, you got money to save, and you got money to invest. $250,000. I can like a quarter if your house costs $250,000, like somebody who makes that money here can go buy one cash. It's
Mm-hmm.
not even the same, you're not even in the same realm. And then so to be in the room with those kind of guys who, you know, who have 50, 60, $100 million in real estate, and you walk in talking about I'm an Airbnb investor, like nobody takes you serious, man. I'm just being honest. Like nobody wants to say that because it's cool, right? But like, it's the truth, man. You get laughed out the room. Don't nobody care about you renting somebody else's property. Nobody care about that. Am I going too hard?
Fear went off.
It's late, man. Look, we tired.
Tired of this. I got this on my chest.
Cause man, we like
Yeah.
we get bombarded with all that all the time, and it's like, and it's a distraction. So
Yeah.
that's my biggest thing. It's not that I don't want people to like, I don't want people to make money, or I don't want you to do other things. Like, it doesn't matter what I want because I'm not your daddy. So, but but it's not what it is. It's just a matter of, are you doing something that like is a productive use of your time? And being that me and you obviously 14 years ago got trapped into some, you know, some of that marketing BS. So when we speak, we're speaking from a position of, I've been in your shoes. I'm not just
Mm-hmm.
clowning. Like I believed it too at one point, you know,
Yeah.
until we got around people who were really doing it and was like, yo, that was embarrassing. Right. So the market has to humble you. So it's not that we don't want you to try different things or to make money in various ways. It's just sometimes those things lead to dead ends. And if you were someone who was on the fringe of making it, you know, to another level in your life, but then you wasted 4 or 5 years of your life chasing some dead end ridiculous thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that shit is whack because the guys who are feeding it to you know that. Because they're learning along with you. The only reason why they have what they have is because you gave it to them. You know what I mean? Like it's just frustrating. That's all. And we're too close to it because it's still getting the people that we know. So it could be, sometimes it just gets frustrating, like to hear the same things over and over again when it's like, well, if you would have did the first thing correctly for 5 years, you wouldn't be on this fifth thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we all know those people who chase the different MLMs and um, business opportunities, and it's kind of like every 2 years they on to the next business opportunity,
Yeah.
and it's just, I think you have to pick, a few things you're good at and just stick with them. I was thinking about like this podcast. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, well, I'm building out 10 years of this. It's like, if I'm gonna start something, I'm starting on long term.
Yeah, you gotta see it through.
Like, all right, 10 years. I'm not in any rush. And I think, like you said, you have to get humbled by the market. And we're talking about as teens, early teens, 1920s, being part of MLM, marketing, um, these type of business opportunities that are attached to an actual business or service, right? A traditional service, but they also have an MLM component that's also merged with it. And that's where it gets sticky, right?
Mm-hmm.
The MLS component is bringing people into the quote unquote business opportunity
Mm-hmm.
and so much, utilizing the service. So, for example, if there's a business, let's take insurance. Insurance is a big one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, these different companies have been here forever. If you're part of one of those companies and one of them services, you're either selling a service or you're selling an opportunity. And I think what
Or
people
both.
have to be wary about, right, or both, um, people have to be wary about is, are you in it to serve the people in that industry, the service, or are you trying to sell them the business? And that's the part I think is whack, just selling the business, right? It's
Well,
people who can do it, who can do both or
yeah.
play dual roles. Very few people that I see and I experience. So um, yeah, and then along with that, there's the perception and the marketing behind it, right? Um, I may not actually do the business or whatever it is, but I'm going to wear the clothes of a business person or a clothes of a successful person, and then project to everyone that I'm doing well in selling the service. you know,
Mm-hmm.
so you have to be careful of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I know we talk about it a lot, but it's
I'm like, why we always come back to?
because man, because we so close to it. We're just too close to it, and we've been in the room with these guys. So all these guys that you, not all of them, because I don't know a lot of the new guys, but a few of these guys who are very popular on social media. Um, Either we know them personally, someone I know knows them personally, or like we've been in the room with them, and it's not like that. Like, and it's not to hate on those people. I wish them well. But if someone comes to say, oh, I've been listening to so and so, or I've taken a course from so and so, I'm sure you can learn something from them. Like you can learn from anyone. But if you're asking for my opinion on their business practice, like when I know it, I'm gonna tell you the truth. I can't lie to you. You want me to lie just because it's cool? Like, you know what I mean? Like that. That's why we always come back to it because we've been in the room. We've been in the room with these guys. Like it's not like that. Like
Yeah,
it's not
you
like that. You know what I
could
mean?
easily.
And
It was normal to see somebody sleeping in their luxury car, like that was their home.
yeah, it still is their
All
home,
all the clothes in the trunk, and they're going from place to place, getting dressed in the parking lot, you
bro.
know,
Listen,
and pulling up in
if
their
you
car.
if you have a Turo rental fleet and Airbnb listings, why do you need a home?
Yeah, yeah. You sleeping you sleeping in your
You
rental.
sleep wherever you want, right? Yeah, be living the life. I'm traveling, blah. I got property everywhere. Yeah, because you don't have a home.
Yeah.
You don't have an address. You might not even have a bank account.
Mhm.
So it's not to like downplay anybody. We're all out here trying. I just don't want people who are in situations where they have to do something convince you to do something thinking you have to do that too. When you're better off than them in most cases. Because everything else they're showing you is debt. And one thing about cars that I don't think people know is that you can't walk away from a car note like you can from a house, right? So you foreclose on a house, you can just walk away. 7 years, it falls off your credit. You default on a car loan, they'll come take the car, but you still owe them the money.
And they'll sell it to someone else.
Yeah, they'll go sell the car to someone else, give another loan, but they'll garnish your wages.
Mm-hmm.
And then so you go, and I'm not knocking anybody. You know what I'm saying? I'm just in terms of like because the goal is always right, generational wealth, right? And so, and being an entrepreneur and being in business and all these things. But if you have a Turo business, can you go public?
No, you cannot.
Okay, because why? Because Turo could just go public if they're not
Mm-hmm.
already, right? So, like, what are you really doing?
Right.
Are you, what jobs are you providing? Like, because in my opinion, or at least from my understanding, entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs find opportunities, investors fund them, right? So entrepreneurs go out, create opportunities for jobs. Investors are the ones who don't have the time but have the money to fund that opportunity to create those jobs. So if you're out here just hustling, right? Because that's what you're doing. You out here just hustling, being self-employed. What really are you doing in the grand scheme of things?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you were working a dead end job that you just didn't like, and you know, for whatever reason, regardless of the industry or profession, you just didn't like it, and you were able to replace that income doing something else, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I want to make that very clear. There's nothing wrong with that. I just don't want people to like fall down this road of generational wealth, not realizing you're just hustling and you're not going about it like the right way. You know what I mean? Like you're doing all these, you're middlemaning all these different services, and in the end, you own nothing. You control nothing. You in nothing. You can't employ anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Not anybody meaningful, because you're not providing a service that would require you to. You're just making money off of other services, right? So I know I'm
For the
rambling, but
for the person who works like a 9 to 5 and they just feel like they need extra money, and they, what one of these services or one of these businesses make them additional $1,000 a month.
mhm.
You know, they might be good with that.
Yeah,
You
I know.
I don't know. The whole
There's not.
generation thing is really like is really beaten beaten down. If I hear one more, generational wealth, or we was never taught, or they don't want to tell us this, all these different tropes. I'm just so just so
Well, you
they're,
somebody so huh?
they're playing on people's hope.
Well, yeah, we know that. But
So
somebody recently, I had a conversation with someone recently, and that was something they brought up. Like this, why don't they teach this in school, right? And I was like, well, who are your teachers?
hmm
These were middle American white people.
hmm
They don't know. How are they going to teach you?
right, right.
Like, it would
Yeah.
it would take
So
it would take for you to be in a specific institution. So now you understand why people move their kids to certain school districts.
yeah. hmm
Now there's racial history there as well, but
Uh, if if you want to see, um, if you want to see some real life, um, you know, racial, what do I want to say, like what do I want to say? Oh, segregation, real life
Mm-hmm.
segregation. You want to start at where the best schools are in your district, right?
Oh,
Wherever you
100%.
live, you can start there. Look at the best schools and just see who live in those areas and how much the real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the real estate is intentionally expensive, so you don't get into those areas and go to those better school districts. In
Mm-hmm.
addition to that, if you can't buy, you can't even rent there because they don't want they will fight any development that comes up that's going to be an apartment building, etc. Low income housing or whatever. They're going to fight it, and which is ridiculous because if they build an apartment building, the low income housing is going to be like 10%. So you're talking about like an 80 unit property is only 8 units. They're gonna fight
Yeah,
it.
but
They're
they
gonna
don't.
fight.
Yeah, they
So
don't care.
yeah, so you can really start there. You can
I mean,
see.
but that happens everywhere though. Not just. I mean, when I was going to the city council meetings in Inglewood, like everybody wants affordable housing, but nobody wants it on their neighbor, like on their block.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the room would be full with people talking about affordable housing, but then every time it came up, nobody would vote in favor of it because that
Yeah.
means they would have to give up something to make it affordable. And the people who
Mm-hmm.
own property are like, no, not on my street.
It's so interesting that back and forth in that argument is unintentionally making real estate even more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
As they complain about where we're going to put more affordable housing, real estate gets more expensive. In addition to actually building the property, getting permits, pulling permits, they make that really hard.
Mm-hmm. That's
Makes
happening right
make
now.
existing real estate even more expensive.
Mm-hmm. But
So
that's so this whole real estate situation, we should have a separate episode just dedicated to how politics and real estate interact with each other
that's a good one. Yeah.
because this episode could be 5 hours.
Right.
um, but definitely, like so going back to what we were talking about earlier, just while I was rambling and going on a rant
Going on
on my
your
on my grumpy old man shit.
eat.
Uh, you know, being that, so one thing that's been like really popular just over the last year has been the stock market,
Hmm.
right? So with every new thing that comes up, of course, there's people who gravitate towards it and use it for, use it to monetize their following, right?
Hmm.
So the stock market has become extremely profitable in terms of not only people who are actively buying and trading, but people who are actively soliciting the information,
Hmm.
right? So we talked earlier a little bit about how these messages are being promoted and marketed. And you're someone who kind of just, because for those who don't know, we have a private stock group, right? And that'll be open to the public soon. But we've had a public stock group for the last, I
Private.
don't know, 5 or 6 months, or private 5 or 6 months. And Dorrance is someone who is newly, just getting acclimated with the markets, right? So,
Mm.
um, what would you say your experience has been like, just from what you've heard, from like being out in the internets,
Right.
to what you're actually learning?
Right. Um, so I was, more so just a passive investor. Um, I kind of set my thing moderate or aggressive for myself. Well, aggressive for actually all my accounts, for my personal accounts and
Mm-hmm.
his accounts. And I was pretty much passive, passive on the investments and just kind of let it do what it do. You know, read a lot of Warren Buffett. And he said you can never beat the market, and I'm like, oh, he's a billionaire, so I believe that. So that was more my experience. And in addition to that, on the internet, you start getting to the internet, and you start seeing, a lot of stock talk. It was more so, um, the simple, if you buy this, it's going to go up,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm buying this, it's going to go up. Follow me into this trade, right? Or do what I
Mm-hmm.
do. Um, but then when I start really getting into it, at you know, within the RBM Capital Group, we're actually breaking down these different things, underwriting companies, and it's been maybe like since the beginning of this year, maybe January for me,
Mm-hmm.
going into the group and really looking at you know all the education and try to like really soak it in. So and, and it's difficult when you're starting from close to zero. You kind of
Mm-hmm.
have an idea of the stock market. You understand that you're buying shares in the company, fractional ownership in the company basically. But then as you really get into it, you start to see like, okay, there's different ways you can actually do this, right? You can be a long-term trader, right, where you're kind of like buying and holding,
Mm-hmm.
or short-term trader, where you're trading the trends. So you might buy something, get out, sell it, and vice versa. Um, so my experience in the group, like really learning, has been completely different from what's actually on the internet. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm more so learning why you buy and hold a company, you know, or why you should just.
Yeah.
So getting into the why, which is not the exciting part, right? It's not it's not the okay, GameStop is about to blow. Buy
Yeah.
this, you sell it next week, and you're gonna be a millionaire, or whatever. Um, the game is really slow once you really learn it.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned if if you really learn how to trade just one company or a few companies, you can just keep doing that. You
Mm-hmm.
can just those trends and keep doing it, uh, which was comforting for me because I'm like, it's so many different stocks on the market. So it's like, where do you start? So that was comforting to say, okay, well, I don't need to know everything about every company. I can pick the company that I know and kind of just roll with that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been interesting. I mean, it's only been a short amount of time, but I've been learning. Um, I've been learning a lot. Been learning a lot. So that's all thanks to uh, your teachings, brother Jerry. You've been teaching me a lot of these different things. And yeah, it's been cool. It's been cool. I can see the long term benefit
Yeah.
of this. And I'm just
Well, I
like, man,
think
18, 19, I probably wouldn't have started a few companies. I would have just invested in other companies already. Let them take most of the risk. Take my 10, 15,000 I would take to start up a company or whatever it is, and invest in someone else's company.
no, 100%. And the funny thing is, I actually had a teacher in high school who like he split the class up and made us pick different companies.
Mm.
Like he
Mm-hmm.
he split, I think it was like three different groups, and he made us pick stocks, and we had a portfolio for like the semester.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we didn't really know what we were doing, but like he still kind of introduced us to that whole process. Um, of course, when you graduate, it's like I'm not doing that. Like I want to rap, right? That's what I was on.
Mm-hmm.
So that didn't really stay with me until like I picked it up. I picked it up later in life. Like I just randomly one day went to I think it was Scott Trade at the time, which they've been bought out recently. Or not recently, but within the last 10 years or so. But I went to Scott Trade, opened an account, and I was just buying like random, like anytime something would happen, I would just buy a company. Or like Marvel got a new movie out. All right, I'm gonna buy Disney type thing. Um, not really paying attention to like what actually goes into the whole practice and discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just because it was a time thing, really. It's one of them things where it's like Well, I'll get to it when I can just sit down and focus on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll be like ripping and running for years and years and years and not really,
Yeah.
putting time into it. So I think for everybody, um, last year during the COVID flash crash was like that point in time where you had the opportunity to like just sit the F down and be like, all right, I'm gonna take this serious.
Mm-hmm.
So um for me that was a thing because we work in real estate, and all the deals that I was working on basically went away once once they issued the stay at home order and all the renter protections. So
Mm-hmm.
in commercial real estate, or just in real estate in general, but in commercial real estate, you know, a good like a quick transaction is like 45 to 90 days. So if 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 you don't have anything closing like today, you're not getting paid 3 months from now.
Mm-hmm.
So once everything kind of fell apart, it was like well, I know for a fact right now I'm not getting paid for the next 3 months. Like I know for a fact. Um and then we had a babysitter. We had an in-home babysitter who we can no longer have in the home because of, COVID. So so it was like, well, if I got to be at home, like I got to figure something out, like I got to something. And so that was the moment to sit the F down and learn,
Mm-hmm.
like the real way. And so last year I got lucky a lot. I mean, everybody got lucky a lot. It was a flash crash. Um, but as time progressed, like, and I really began to understand like what was actually happening, and it became more clear and more apparent, um, that it was very similar to real estate. Our understanding of real estate,
Mm-hmm.
just the time frames are condensed,
Right.
you know. Um, and so I picked up on it. I put the time in, and I began trading like full time. I picked up on it pretty quickly. And then once we got to a certain point where it was clear that this was just like, this was the point in time where like anybody could have made some money, then I began kind of going the opposite way into like fundamentals
Mm-hmm.
and like value investing, because you start hearing certain things from people who aren't in financial industries at all, and they're giving advice. And that's when it's like, okay, well, I need to look the other way.
Mm-hmm.
um so and it's easy to look like an expert in times like this because the markets are up. It's like that old saying, a rising tide lifts all ships.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone can be an expert because every day a stock was going up, you know? And so now more recently I've really been focusing on fundamentals a lot,
Mm-hmm.
just because when you're able to find valuable companies, it doesn't matter what the market does because the company is still valuable, right? The company still produces the same amount of money regardless of if the stock price goes up or down.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're buying quality companies, then you don't have to worry about the day-to-day fluctuations in price, which is why I think most people who have success are long-term, investors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, everyone does tend to jump to the day trade thing, but spare yourself. Like don't you don't have to do that. If you want to do that, go ahead. But you don't have to do that. I think it's just the sexy thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I
So
think for the the get money quick scheme that's
yeah.
everywhere. You know,
Hmm.
not to say the day trading is scheme, but someone who has the mindset of I'm going to take $1,000 and flip it. I'm going to take $5,000 and flip it. 10,000 and flip it. Right. So those type of people with those type of mindsets, that they'll be attracted to something like that.
Mm-hmm.
right? These people are usually like gamblers. They'll go to the casinos. You know, back in the day, they were always the ones on the dice. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So
I mean,
that,
but it happened though. Like that.
yeah.
That's the thing though. It happened. Like last year, when things fell apart, it was a great buying opportunity. So there were
Mhm.
days, there were days where Tesla went up like $200 or $300. And so if you're holding options, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a lot of money. Like you could,
Mhm.
I've seen people turn, $1,000 account into $60,000 in one trade,
That's crazy.
right? But just because there's so much liquidity going into the markets, like the government is printing all this money and people are spending it and pumping it back into the market because the markets are
Mhm.
the only place, like equities are the safest place to park your money at the moment. Bond rates are extremely low, so everybody's buying stocks because the return is greater.
Mhm.
So if the government is printing all this money and it's going right back into the stock market, that lets you know the market is overvalued. It's all artificial, like it's all recently printed money,
So, what
right?
would you say to the person who's hearing this stock talk? That doesn't know much about stocks, or who always want to get into stocks. Where do they start? You know,
Um, where do they start?
because all
You
they
can.
heard was, I seen somebody turn 1,000 into 60,000.
I should have said that. You're right. Uh, um, well, if you if you want to start, just to start in general, I would say go and go and open up a brokerage account, which now you can do online, like fully. A while ago, you had to actually, well, you didn't have to, but it was kind of like encouraged to actually go in and sit down with a guy and he'll walk you through the process. But I would say just open a brokerage account, number one. Um, and they offer um, a ton of educational information on their websites. Um, I would also say, shameless plug, you can DM us, right? You can DM the Rich by Monday Instagram, and we will put you on the list. Give us DM us your email. We'll put you on the list for when our group is public. Because when that happens, there's going to be a bunch of educational information as well for people who are beginners, right? And so that's step two: create a brokerage account, DM us your information, your email, and number three, think of 4 or 5 companies that you use often or that you really really like. And what you can do is you can go to their website, and on their website, usually at the bottom, there's an investors tab. And when you click that tab, it'll take you to another page and it should say like annual report or something. And click that and just try to skim through it. You won't understand it, right? But just try and read the business section, the management section, and some of the footnotes. Now, it won't make sense to you. Don't I'm not saying this is going to work automatically and you'll be rich. But just by doing that,
If you do
just
this,
by
Rich by Monday.
just by doing that, you'll get more familiar with the actual business. Because I think that's something that gets lost in all of this, right? Is that people don't understand that you're actually buying a business when you buy a stock. And so it's easy to get lost in the price of the stock instead of the value of the company. So you have to really understand the difference between um, price and value, or cost and value. Cost is what cost is what you get. I pay for something, I get something, right? Value is I pay for something, I keep getting it, right? So at some point, the cost and the hype can detach itself from value, but eventually the value will catch up and they'll meet. right? And so you need to be able to practice discernment and know the difference. Understand that buying stocks and buying companies are two different things. If you want to trade, you can trade. If you want to invest, that's a totally different thing. Trading and investing are not the same
Right.
by any stretch. You know what I mean? So definitely try to like I like to just to give you guys some tips. I always look at the market cap before I really don't even look at the stock price. I usually always look at the market cap. And the market cap is the basically the fair market value of the company, right? Like if it's the amount you would pay if you wanted to buy all the outstanding shares. So Apple's market cap is $2.3 trillion. So if you wanted to buy Apple shares, all of them, it would cost you $2.3 trillion. Now, in order for you to know if that is a, if that is a, what's the word? If that's expensive or if it's a good value or not, then there's other things that you would have to know. You'd have to know, how much revenue they bring in, what their net income looks like. And in real estate, that's something we do anyway, because when you value a commercial property, you're looking at gross rents, right? And you're looking at net income. And the net income is used to help you come up with a value in a sense, right? It's the same with the company. You look at their net earnings and you pay a certain multiple, you know, on their net earnings for the company. And you'll quickly realize that a lot of these companies don't even make any money, but yet their stock price is extremely high. Well, then it's like, well, if I had I'll just throw out a basic example. If a company has negative, profit every year, but it's a $200 billion company. Well, if I had $200 billion, would I just go park it in a company that's not profitable?
Definitely not.
Right? I wouldn't do that with $10.
Mm.
You know what I mean? A stock price today is just what the cash flow is down the road. So would you pay $5 a day to earn $1 a year for the next 5 years? That's not really a dollar a year. It cost me $5 up front. It would take me 5 years to make my money back. That's not really great, right? But would you pay $2 to make $6 back every year?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's
Absolutely.
value.
You see what I'm saying? So you have to look in the future and see what their earning potential is, and you can discount or reverse compound those earnings to get you to what the company is worth today.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very long, sophisticated, more than what I should have said answer, but but the reality is you definitely need to understand cost versus value, right? And understand that when you're in the stock market, you're buying companies. So think of it like you're buying the whole company before you buy one share. I wouldn't buy a $10 billion company that doesn't make any money, has a bunch of debt, and whatever is just not healthy. But it might be popular on the street, and so everybody else who's unaware will buy it. But that doesn't mean you should buy it.
Getting away from seeing certain stock pumped on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Buy this, going up. Right?
Yeah.
So see that someone saying buy this, no matter what the stock is, you can then take that stock, actually go look at the financials, like
Mm-hmm.
what he's talking about, going directly to their website, underwriting the company to see if it's actually worth that amount.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not just following people in the trades, which
No.
is like right, or following call outs. It's like some person calls out a certain stock that everyone should buy, and everyone goes to buy it, right? But you have to think about why someone would do that. If they call it a stock, if I say, hey, we should go buy, you know, this watch stock, what's my motivation behind that?
Yeah.
Right? Did I already go buy this watch stock and then go online to my, hundreds of thousands of followers and say you should buy this to where it
Yeah.
pumps up the stock? Maybe I bought that watch stock at $10. Now I told my hundreds of thousands of followers to go buy it. Now it pumped the stock up to $40. Is
Mm-hmm.
that my plan? So you have to kind of like think about why somebody would call out certain things, right? And what I have been learning in the stock group is, Jared might call out something, but the why behind it is like totally different. Different.
Yeah.
The why completely different, right? Um, we're gonna go into how much the company's actually making, right? What's their debt? Are they able to service all their debt and how much money they would have left, right? Um, you know, um, how many shares does the company have? Are they diluting the shares by adding additional shares every year, or are they buying more shares back to make them more valuable?
Mm-hmm.
So like that, like looking at the whole picture. So, um, which is another thing I appreciate is never buy this stock because just because it's no. I'm looking at the stock for these reasons. I'm not telling you to buy it,
Yeah.
because for one, in a lot of cases that it's illegal, right?
Yes.
And uh, yeah, so yeah, period on that.
Yeah. I
um,
ain't going to jail. Hell no.
so the point is, I think the goal of the stock group is to teach you how to think for yourself, right? Teach you how to pick your own stocks. Teach you the why behind things so you can make your own decisions. Um, Empowering people, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how you empower people. Um, the reverse of that is, um, being in a position of, I'm the person you get these things from. Without me, you can't get this information,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's different, right? That's someone who wants to keep the power, right, for themselves and string you along. So I'm gonna leave breadcrumbs a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, to where you will always need me, right? Because if you don't need me no longer, it makes me less valuable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we off that, right? So um, I think the best way is to empower people, um, to learn these concepts for themselves, and then you can go on and you can do whatever you want with it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not going. It's no way you're gonna sit next to us and not learn anything for 5 years and look up and say, "What the heck was I doing?"
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
you know. So yeah, that's what it is. It's empowering people with information, stringing it, just dangling in front of their head, at their eyes, and saying, "Hey, you really need to know this information. And the only way you can get this information is through me."
But that's because we we know the end. We know the whole cycle, the whole process. Like you don't. That's why it's very important to like be cautious of who you take information from, because you have to know where like a person's bias is.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if I'm depending on you, if I'm depending on you to live the way I live, like how can you expect me to be 100% honest with you?
Right.
Because I need you.
But I depend on you, uh, to believe me, so you can buy into me.
Yes.
So everything I say, um, to you is going to be in the benefit of myself. It has,
Yes.
right? If you don't believe the next thing I say, I don't eat, and I like to eat, right? I like stuff alive.
Yeah.
So
That's a real thing. Like and that was one of the reasons why I know we had a whole podcast about how we didn't want to do a podcast, but that was one of the reasons why it was extremely tough for me to even do not just the podcast, but do this the stock group as well. Because for one, in order for me to do it the way I want to do it, it has to make money because I'm not wealthy yet to where I could just sit at home and teach people because I feel like it, right? So it has to be something that makes money to justify the hours that we got to put into it. And but it's hard for me. It was hard for me to get to a point to say you need to pay me for this, right?
Right.
The group is still, it won't be free when it's public, but it's been free for, I've been paying for it. If anything, it's costing me money, right? But the um the point is, I made an effort when all this stuff was going on, and everybody's out here throwing money at these bogus companies because it's on YouTube or some guy on Twitter told you to buy it. I made an effort to just step in and be like, you know what, I can help y'all. And it came from when I got started, or not even when I got started really, but uh, when people were, once I noticed people were getting into the markets, I was referring them to other people who I knew were in that field, and they would always come back to me with questions. And then once I got a hold of the information they were getting, I was like, well, I see why. These guys don't know anything.
Mm.
I'm sending you over here, putting my name on the line, and and you going over there and getting the runaround for $150. And
Right.
then you got to come back to me, and now I got to give a whole class and lecture on
I
how
just
to
noticed
invest.
the cycle is the same. This is the cycle of why everything exists. Every business around us exists because of that same cycle. I want to
Yeah.
send somebody to someone else, and they can't service the client better than we can. So now we got to build this whole infrastructure in a house to now service those people,
Hmm.
right? It's the same thing in real estate, right? Where we were at different companies that wasn't serving the people like we would.
Yeah,
It
that's
happened
true.
for credit, right? Now the people who want real estate, they're not in position because of credit. Now we need to build infrastructure for that.
Hmm.
Now people want to get into marketing and investing, and now we have to build a whole infrastructure for that. It's like a cycle of I don't want to do this,
Yeah, like
but now I have to build something because the
yeah,
people need a source that's going to be there for them, right? It's going to be a
yeah.
reliable. It's not going to just take their money. And I don't know. That was my rant of this cycle.
No, but that's true though. Like that, and that's why it's
I'm
been
just,
free this whole time. Like even when we talk about like, even when I talk to him about what the fees are gonna be, like it just hurts me to say it.
and that's what I want to bring up too. Uh, we've in we've been so we've been commission based for a very long time, right? I think I can think of two jobs I've had since I was from high school,
Hmm.
right? I probably worked like a W-2 job, maybe 24 months my whole life. I've always been commissioned, right? So in commission, you get when you get paid on commission, you get paid for results,
Yep.
right? Once you go do the work and you complete the work, then you get a fee for that. This is different. We think in terms of that, right? So if I want to teach you how to be successful in the stock market, maybe the hangup is you're not successful yet. I didn't complete that mission. Therefore, I haven't earned a fee.
No, I mean that was, yeah, that was it. It's like I'm not I'm not a like a millionaire trader. So
Mm.
it's like, well, how can I, you know what I mean? Like there's other guys who are traders who spend their
Right.
time trading, who don't have the time to do this. You know why? Because they're trading. So that
Mm.
means that if I'm gonna do it, then that means that I have to kind of balance that out.
Right.
And because I'm because of the type of person I am, it just makes me feel away. I'm not saying like I'm not going to charge them because I have to in order to continue, but it just makes me feel a certain way about it, knowing that
Mm,
there are other people who are probably more qualified to give you this information, but I know that what they're going to charge you is going to be ridiculous because their time is expensive.
mhm,
You know what I mean? Their time away from whatever it is that they do is way too expensive to to deliver this information in the format that we can while we're in this position or while we're in a position to do so. You know what I mean? So, and I looked at it. What really helped me kind of get through it was just looking at it like, well, I probably did like 5 consultations a month, right? Anytime somebody hit me up, especially a black person, like a black person hit me up, I took the meeting. Doesn't matter what it's about. They see me on Instagram, Twitter, um, whatever. I took the meeting, right? And I looked at it like, well, this is a way for me to consult all these people because I can't sit down with everybody, right?
right.
And that's not to say I have all the answers because I don't. I'll be the first one to tell you that. But I always took the meeting. If someone took the time to reach out to me and they thought what I was doing could add value to what they had going on, I took the meeting,
Mhm,
right? So I looked at this the same way. Like, well, instead of me sitting down in front of everybody, I can create a community or a space for us to interact with each other every day, right? And then also record some information for them that they can have on demand to continue to reuse and learn. Um, and so that would be like a consultation, a continuous consultation, basically.
mhm, right.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of helped me get past it. Cause I be I think about it like the guy I used to work for before I got back into commercial real estate. You know, he ran his own business for still is running his own business for over 30 years.
Mhm,
He's he's there every morning, bright and early, and he's there late. And they do like $5 to $10 million a year. Now, now he has a nice house now in the harbor, and he has boats, and he has cars, and all this other stuff. But you're looking at 30 years. Like that's an accumulation over 30 years of beating your alarm clock, getting to work early, staying late, working the weekends, missing the
mhm,
birth of your children, like all these things, right? And so when you see him, and this is a guy who's making, like I said, $5-10 million with 60 employees, and I'm seeing how hard he's working for $5 million. He doesn't have to, right? He's choosing to. Um, and so when you see those kind of guys doing that and having the things that you would think a rich person would have, right? And then you go look at some of these new guys who've been around for 18 months and they're trying to say they live like him.
mhm. Right.
You know what I mean? Um, so I felt like because we bring a different perspective because we've just been in business so long. Like we're young, we're 33 years old, but we've been in business for over 14, longer than that if you count high school, to be honest.
Yeah.
20 years, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of things that people are going through now, these are experiences we already had over 10 years ago.
Mhm,
And maybe it's like maybe it comes off a certain way because we're the same age as them when we say it. But the reality is like the experience, like it doesn't matter how old you were. 15 years is 15 years.
mhm.
You know what I mean? So it's easy to kind of, I don't even know where I'm going with this, but it's easy to kind of see through.
Just gonna let it flow through you.
It's easy. It's just easy. This is why we talk about the things, and this is why we talk about people and things the way that we talk about them, right? Because When you're around real business people and you see what it takes to sustain, to live and maintain a certain way, and then you see a guy pop up in 6 months with all the answers, like that's not how life works, right?
Mm.
But then they get you in their comments asking them for the directions in the way. How did you make $2 million? How long did it take you? As fast as you click buy. That's how long it took them. You traded your money, and that's how they got it. They're in many cases, again, you're better off than them. I have many friends who have houses, real estate, businesses, their own cars, whatever you want to say that they have it, and they're looking up to these people who don't have none of that. They have none of that, and I just wish it was easier to like. I just wish it was easier. There was a way to kind of bridge that gap between like the real business world, like the practical world, and then like the you know the marketing world, to where people could really see. Because in my opinion, like social media is kind of like a black hole, right? Social media, like, you know how a black hole like works in theory,
Mhm.
how it folds time.
Yeah.
All right, we about to get real Bill Nye right here.
Yeah.
So a black hole, right? You supposedly, because I don't know, I'm not an astronaut or physicist. Supposedly, a black hole allows you to bend like space time. So instead of traveling in a straight, like, like a curve or whatever, I don't know, you can bend time, right? You bend time, and then you travel straight through.
It's not going through.
Right? So
Uh,
I feel like social media has acted like a black hole in a sense, because it's given us a look to the other side of wealth,
mhm.
to people who have been wealthy for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And so you think that's how you have to live now, when the reality is that's 5 generations worth of people getting it right.
Right.
You
So
know what I
you're
mean?
looking at a wealthy person, or looking at someone's wealth online that really does this, is really wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been for 3, 4, 5 generations, and they just show you the now, so people can
Yeah.
see that. Well, I'm going to just copy paste that onto me. Whatever it looks like to be wealthy, I'm gonna just use that. I'm just gonna just put that on me, and now I'm wealthy.
Yeah. I mean, and that came from, see, before it was influencers, it was socialites,
Yeah.
right? It was Paris Hilton and all them.
Right.
So you got to see Paris Hilton be 21 driving a $600,000 Mercedes.
Mm-hmm.
And so now 21-year-olds know what a $600,000 Mercedes looks like.
Right. Right. Before it just
So
wasn't at all.
exactly. So
Because
now
it's
they'll
not market
mortgage.
way you would know.
Exactly. They'll mortgage their future to be that today, not
Mm-hmm.
realizing she has money from yesterday, like 10,000 yesterdays, 10 million yesterdays,
Right.
to
Right.
be able to do that today. I'm not saying you can't live a certain way. You can live however you want. You can buy whatever you want. It's all about proper context,
Mm-hmm.
right? And once you're able to put things in a context, then you'll understand the difference between cost and value, and that'll help you discern between like what's real and what's not. It becomes really easy, because then you'll know what someone who worked their entire life to have what they have. You'll know how they spend their money and what they spend their money on, and
Right.
they don't waste it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if even when it comes to watches, like you see guys busting down watches with diamonds and try to sell you on the idea that it's worth something, and it's actually worthless,
Mm-hmm. Getting tore
right?
it up.
Yeah, they ruin the watch. It's worthless. So it's those types of things. They're trying to mortgage their future to live today. So anytime I see somebody that has no history of doing anything business wise, and they're flashing money or flashing a lifestyle, right? One, they usually don't live in California, right? Which is what we talked about earlier. They usually
Mm-hmm.
don't live in California. And two, that lets me know that this is all new money and they're getting it from you. They're getting it from everybody who's out here supporting them. And I'm not saying, again, not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, understand what your money is doing because you could be doing everything they're doing. You don't
Yeah.
need to give them
Stay-
their money.
You stay in your lane.
Yeah, like just do what you got to do. Do what old people do. Like why nobody listen to old people?
Man, I don't know. It's, I think it, older people get to a certain age and then they just people look at them as cute. Yeah, like they're little toddlers. I'm like,
They're like
no, you.
grown babies.
Yeah. I see something that was showing. It was on the medias, on the social medias.
Hmm.
Uh, it was like this older guy. He's probably like in his 70s or 80s. He was taking his turtle for a walk, and the turtle he's just outside. Somebody's taping him from their window, second story window, and he's outside. He has his turtle right next to him. He's just going for a walk. Then he like picks up the turtle. Then he pets it and he goes home. And somebody's in their room just using him as content. Get the tape and say, "Oh, that's so cute." Like, no, that guy has generations of knowledge. Like, go talk
Man.
to him. Don't just treat him as a cute teddy bear or a puppy or a toddler. Like, these are people who've been through things, who
Hmm.
acquired so much knowledge over so many years. You can really talk to them, get bopped in the head on so many different topics.
Yeah, I mean, because they survived everything. Like, think about it. There's people alive today and active, like in the financial markets, who weren't active in 2008.
Mm.
So they don't know what like a downturn is like at all.
They haven't been through a cycle.
No, they don't know the signs. They don't know the red flags. And I'm gonna say this now. I want it on the record, right? Not that it matters, but on the record. um, in a couple years, all these guys are going to be saying, "I told you, I told you it wouldn't last." Of
Mm-hmm.
course, it wouldn't last. Of course, the housing market wouldn't last. Of course, Tesla wouldn't keep going up.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it. I told you guys. They're all going to be saying that after
Yeah,
everybody lost money. That's what they're going to be saying.
yeah. Everybody's gonna know. And I think another reason why people don't listen to older people is because they're not on the social medias. They're not on the internets. That's the biggest component.
Well, they can't because they own everything. Like they and if they get on it, especially today's world, like if they get on the internet and talk about their problems, nobody cares. Not in today's climate. If you
Yeah,
if you make $1,000, bro, the internet is coming for 999 of them
yeah,
and trying to give it to homeless or something.
yeah, yeah. You would definitely be um you know you'll be beat up for whatever success which is so the internet will beat you up for the same success that they're chasing. So they're like, I want to be a millionaire. I want to drive a Lamborghini. Then the guy who owns your apartment building driving a Lamborghini, you're like, that's not fair.
But that
Like,
again, that's how you know that like people like it's not
and by
what
the
they
way,
say it is.
let me just say this really quick. The person who owns your apartment building probably doesn't drive a Lamborghini. They
No,
probably drive
not at
like
all.
a Civic.
If
You know,
that.
'cause it's just different. People with real wealth, yeah, it's not like that. It's just not.
No, because you're a target. Like people will literally come for you. They will come like they think people think if you have something, you didn't earn it and it belongs to everyone else. Like that, especially in today's climate, that's all it is. Like these are old people who have regular jobs who bought property, right?
Mhm,
And now maybe their kids are going to be taking over, or they're retiring from the business of housing because housing is a business, right? If
mhm,
the government were to provide housing, then they should buy it, but they can't buy it because the government is not a business.
mhm.
So These are people who've been providing affordable housing to everyone in their city, and because of rules that have been set in place, by certain politicians, things have kind of turned against them. And here you are, you've been doing what you can for people for the last 40 years, and then all of a sudden everyone acts like, oh, it was, you were just born that way.
Mhm.
Like you didn't do anything for them. Your housing should be free.
Mhm.
That doesn't make any sense. But then when you have people in political positions who are driving that narrative, then people will run with it. It has
But
nothing to do with economics.
this is a great topic, and this is something that we're going to get into
On
probably
the
in
next episode.
because talking about just real estate and politics and how they're linked. Um, yeah, we can kind of really go off on that.
Yeah, I get real angry with that because because working in, you already know, working in commercial, bro, you make 100 to 150 calls a day. So I've met with, out of all the apartment owners in South LA, right, and in the South Bay, I've called thousands and I've met with hundreds of owners.
Mhm.
And each one that I've met with, I think the youngest guy I met with was probably in his 50s, or like late 40s, maybe. Um, and what's surprising is it's a lot of minorities in South LA and in the South Bay who even own property. Lots of black folks, lots of Asian folks, lots of Middle Eastern, Hispanic, everything, bro. Like there's everybody has their share. Um, but that's not how it's presented to the public. It's presented as these huge corporations, when in reality it's like your homie's auntie,
Right. Yeah.
who who bought like a 8-unit building, and she's just been housing the same people there.
Hmm.
Um,
Like somebody's grandma,
yeah. So
which,
when
which
you
is a
when you
reason to know, like you can put a face to the people who own things.
yeah.
So face doesn't look like the faces we see day to day. It's an automatic red flag,
Hmm.
So um, in many ways, we're profiling. Yes, we're profiling the internet people. I'm like, the people I run into, they don't look like you.
No, and they have
They're not young.
millions
It's no way. It's no way you can accumulate that. If you're
in that
talking
short span of time. No.
in that industry, you're talking about real estate, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, you didn't, right? Um, yeah, yeah. In many ways, and I mean that's a human thing, right? You profile
Well,
people.
if you work in sales, you profile. That's just sales. Like if you work in sales, again, we got to stop. We got to stop putting these titles in front of things to make them sound like more than what they are. I'm not saying we're doing that. I'm just breaking that down. I want to make sure I'm very clear. If you work in real estate, you work in sales, and it's your job to meet people, talk to people, and get them to a point of a sale or a purchase. So you have to be able to, you know, to pick the right people. Right. In commercial, we call directly to people who already own apartment buildings. Why? Because who else is going to buy an apartment building faster than someone who already owns one?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so in residential, there's there was a person at my office who uh would go to Target and bump into people with her shopping cart, and it worked. She was one of the highest producing agents in the office.
Right.
So, you work in sales, right? So profiling is part of that, because you need to be able to pick up on if it's worth continuing the conversation, or if it's something that could
Or
actually be what it is. You need to be able to make that decision quickly.
yeah.
You
Or
know
if
what I
you
mean?
add value to those people or to those people.
Yeah.
In addition to that, um, it's very easy to find out who those people are.
Yeah, that's also a reason why I don't, yeah, because
That's another.
yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like if you say if you say I'm X, Y, and Z and I own this, Okay, well let's see, right? Which is why, you know, we're never. I would never claim to be something I'm not, right? It's like um, because it is very easy to find that out, if you go looking for it. So
And I'm not even gonna lie. I've looked all of them up. If somebody came out and said they made $1 million by my course or whatever, I looked them up.
yeah, yeah. So
And it ain't. I don't believe you. You need more people. So
yeah, so we know, you know, we know.
yeah. So anyway, I mean, we didn't went on tangents.
It's just the late night show.
Yeah, it's the late night show.
Night show. And I like how we started this, and we didn't even reference the new mic. You know what I'm saying? So for all
Oh
the haters,
yeah,
let us know what it sounds like now. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah. You know what I mean? You know, you got new studio equipment. You know, prices going up. You know what I mean? Prices going up. You know,
Right,
podcast might not be free no more. Now it's free 99. You know what I mean? Prices
right.
going up.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I got my
so yeah.
tomorrow, so it'll be nice to see what that sounds like. You
Yeah,
know.
I mean the good thing is, even to reference our first episode of not wanting to do this, but I feel like the good thing is, or a good thing will be, is that our audience will get to kind of see how this thing grows like over time.
Right.
So just you guys be patient with us. Let us work out the kinks, and we'll continue to improve this situation, and just make it better. Just keep getting better at it and get comfortable with it, getting in a groove, and then maybe we'll bring in some people who can provide some serious value, to the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm bringing some old people on. I'm bringing some grandmas and some aunties because they got
Right.
the money. I didn't been to their houses, vacation houses. They got the money.
The experience, the game, they just know.
They gonna tell you how to get rich by Monday.
Right.
They got the answers.
Right. Right.
So,
I mean, I think I just want to be, just a source. A source of information. I think someone's gonna watch this. 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, and take it and run with it. You know,
mm-hmm,
because um, I'm okay.
yeah.
We're gonna be so.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be nice to see somebody take it to the next level. I think that's what it's all about. Be an OG. I'm ready to be an OG. You know what I'm saying? I'm ready to put on
Man, you
my
the
matching.
OG. You the OG already, man. You got some
No,
Teva slippers. What is
the
that? I
Tiva,
seen them. Some
Tiva. All
Teva.
right, on now.
Man.
Yeah. I'm ready to put on my matching jumpsuit. With the pants to
Yeah.
match and the jacket, the zip up.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm wearing track suits and Tivas.
Yeah. You out there with the
I'm up here sweat.
chancletas.
Yeah.
You know. You know what I
Oh man.
mean? Yeah. You
So,
earlier you said records. Like you already a OG, bro. You said you bought records.
right.
I don't think anybody in our lifetime bought records. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, now we
Yeah.
both OGs, both washed. Uh,
Right. Man, I'm fighting it though. I'm fighting it.
yeah, I mean you got to.
Fighting it. I'm put a little swag on it, a little sauce. Well, what the young kids saying now? Some sauce. I gotta put some sauce on it.
Man, you're not helping, dog. You're not
All
you're
right.
not helping.
Cool. All right. Cool.
All right, man. So we can go
Yeah.
ahead and wrap this up. Hopefully next week it won't be as late.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But this has
And
been
we usually record a certain day, and that day got it was just a lot going on that day.
yeah. So yeah, man. So this has been the end of the late night show.
Yeah. Wrap us up.
Any closing words, man?
Now come back next Monday. Same time, same network, same realness.
Well, there you go. I appreciate you guys for hanging out with us,
Yep.
and
Sure.
we'll catch you next week.
Yes.